What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day officially. We are halfway through the week. What is good? What is good, everybody? If you can hear me loud and clear, do me a favor, let me know in the chat. That would be great. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I can't tell you guys how many times my dumb ass has quite literally started a webinar, talked to myself for 3 or 4 minutes, and then went, oh shit, nobody can hear me. So before we officially get things kicked off, if you guys can hear me loud and clear, you guys can see my screen, you guys can see Ask Me Anything AMA on the screen, that would be freaking fantastic. Let me know in the chat. That would be great. I want to make sure we get things kicked off and you guys can actually see my screen. Kind of hard to add value if you can't see my screen, right? Or you can't hear me. All right. Fantastic. How is everybody doing today? Man, I am so excited to be here. The last 2 days, well, really Monday afternoon, Tuesday, and today, half a day today. So yeah, really the last 2 days, I guess. I have been working on something major that is absolutely going to destroy it for all you digital triggerians. All of you guys that follow us at Digital Triggers got some major groundbreaking things in the works. I mean, I can't even, the size of the deal that I just closed and smashed for all of us is just going to be freaking ridiculous. So super excited to work on that, and frankly, super excited for that meeting to be done. I mean, it was amazing, but it's just a whirlwind. So excited to come sit down with you guys, hang out with you guys, and rock your worlds and chat about pay-per-call. The be-all, the end-all, what all of you guys love chatting about with me. So I'm excited to jump right into it today. So today what I want to do is chat pay-per-call with you. So we did one hell of a pay-per-call webinar and AMA, and I wanted to follow it up, and I wanted to really spend time answering your questions. So last time I got a little bit of feedback from you guys before we started, but really my goal was to just feed it to you straight, right? To skip the bullshit and to share with you guys kind of the lies and the misconceptions about the industry and what's happening. And on what a lot of people are, how a lot of people are selling pay-per-call is just ass backwards. It's getting them in trouble. They're getting upside down. They're selling things that really, they're not going to be able to fulfill, and just is putting, frankly, a lot of pay-per-call marketers in a bad spot. And so I think that we absolutely crushed last week. I mean, I gave you guys basically a word for word email template. I gave you guys all of the angles that have crushed it for us, right? I taught you guys how to get in front of your customers, how to sell them. I taught you guys how to sell a deal properly so that you don't end up upside down. I mean, I can't tell you guys how much time, effort, and money that's going to save you guys if you guys just put that into use. So today, I want to spend some time now kind of answering some other questions that you guys have. So I went through all the questions in the AMA, in the AMA Google form that you guys are filling out. And I got those pulled up on the screen, but I also want to take a second and kind of go through your guys' questions that you guys have in the chat real quick. So if you have a question that you want me to answer today live for you guys on this webinar, do me a favor, take a second, think about it, and let me know inside the chat. I'll grab a couple more questions here, and then we'll officially get things underway. All right, so Prob, I see your question. So Prob has a question about fulfillment and call-only ads. I got you, brother. We will cover that. Not a problem, bud. Glad to see you on here. Really, you had 2 questions, so I'm going to try to merge that into one question in here. Do you have any restrictions on niches? All right, great. So got that one in here. Howard Tiano, I got your question that you submitted, brother. Elad Levi, hopefully I didn't butcher your last name too bad, man. Tim Parker, what's up, boss? Good to see you in here, man. Jimmy Hoskins, Patrick Foley, Howard Tiano, Prob, got your question in here as well. Let's get props last name in. All right, so let's jump in here. Let's pick out a couple more. Let's see what I can find in here. Joe, is this a place for mastermind questions? Really, this isn't a sales pitch, guys. We're gonna have a webinar next week when we officially open up the mastermind. But Chris, if you got questions, man, there's like one thing holding you back, I'm happy to answer it for you. But I don't want this to turn into a big pitch for our pay-per-call mastermind, right? Give value first, and I know that you guys will want to jump into the mastermind. So if there's something that I can help with, though, provide some value, I'm happy to do it. What are some under the radar niches you've had success with in terms of PPL? I like that one. Matt Coleman, great question, man. So I'll definitely put that in here. I like the walkthrough question from scratch I just saw on your screen. We're going to handle that. How do you come up with a price per lead and how do you position it? Aaron Garcia, you definitely need to go watch the webinar that I did. You're going to find it on the YouTube channel. Literally, I can't do a better job today than I did on that last pay-per-call specific AMA webinar, literally teaching you how to sell it, all the angles, like how to set up the test, how to do that 30-day market test with call-only ads. Like that was a freaking beast of a webinar. If you guys missed that, do yourselves a favor. And I'm sorry if this is repeat for you guys, some of you guys that were on the call and watched the webinar, right? This is what I'm talking about right here. Okay, you go do a search on Google for the best pay-per-call training ever, right? You're gonna find this webinar, right? I gave it on January 31st. Go watch this, please, Aaron Garcia. There's so much ridiculous value in here. People literally told us it was worth more than most of the pay-per-call courses that are out there. All right, and it was just literally a free webinar for you guys. All right, so go watch that. All right. Okay, so that's a great question, Carolyn Huff. Happy to answer that for you. All right. Yeah. So Jared Knight has a good question. Basically on how I structure and collect retainer payments. Cool. Happy to answer that, Jared Knight. Great question. So again, guys, this is your opportunity to structure, right? The next 50 minutes with me, I'm going to tackle as many of these topics as I possibly can. All right. And I'm not going to just talk about them a little bit. I'm going to break it down and give it to you step by step. And I'm going to talk to you guys about what to avoid, right? What bumps and bruises and things to look out for so that you guys don't make the same mistakes that I did, right? Trust me when I say I've made a million mistakes, okay? And my goal is to just help you guys avoid as many of those landmines and learning curves as possible. So that is the goal today. I'm gonna try and find one or two more questions and we're gonna go ahead and get things underway today. So Jeff Best says, please talk about tracking numbers and where to get them. Obviously, you guys know I've recommended Analytic Call Tracking forever. I think it's the cheapest call tracking platform out there on the market. There are more advanced systems in terms of lots of different things, but if you need like a wholesale call tracking platform to do a whole lot of volume with pay-per-call, I don't think that there's anything on the market that can touch it. Yes, the 31st AMA was serious shit. Thanks, Greg Stillman. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, crazy amount of value. What's PPL? Pay per lead. Can you port numbers over from CallFire to ACT? Yeah. So Aaron Garcia, the way that ACT works is actually a direct integration with Twilio, right? And so we let you guys control your phone numbers. That's how ACT works. They don't make you buy the phone numbers under their Twilio account. So the thing that you would do, Aaron, is you would do a port of your phone numbers from CallFire to Twilio. Once those are in and once those are set up, then you would go set them up inside of ACT. Hope that makes sense, man. How do you come up with the price per lead and how do you position it? Man, you got to go watch the last webinar. That's exactly what that webinar was all about, was positioning and sales, how to sell it right and how to ensure that you don't lose your ass when you sell pay per lead. All right. For those of you guys asking about the, would help if I was recording the right screen, right? Let's see here. Actually, let's leave it on this one. For those of you guys asking questions about the pay-per-call mastermind and when we're opening it, hint, hint, you know, little hint here. Next week, officially, we open the mastermind for the first time in literally months for enrollment. If you guys want to jump on the enrollment waiting list, you know that you want in. You've seen us launch it a million times. You know what it's all about. You're already sold, right? Then go join the enrollment waiting list. If you're not sold yet, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, that's fine. Just wait till next week, right? And you'll get emails talking about the webinar next week, right? And the pay-per-call mastermind enrollment opening and the webinar happening, all right? Just wait for that, okay? If you have specific questions about the mastermind, you can also put them inside the chat. Obviously, we got Ryan Claudio from support on here as always. He'll do his best to answer any of those questions that come in. Okay, but understand that if you've already seen the sales page, you're on the waiting list, right? There's probably not a lot of questions that Ryan can answer yet about the program. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and dig in. Do me a favor, close your door, right? Get rid of your distraction, close out the other programs on your screen, right? And give me the next 45 to 50 minutes, and I promise I will make it damn well worth your time. Give me a 1 when you guys are ready to kick things off. I need at least half of you guys to let me know in the chat that you are good to go, and we will kick this thing off officially. All right, guys, so we're going to tackle these questions one by one. I'm going to break these out, or I'm going to attempt to break these out into individual slides so I can really break down the question and try to give you guys as much context as I possibly can about each and every one of these questions that we decided to go over today. Let's go ahead and do this. All right. All right, so this is the first question we got here from Elad Levi. So Elad says, hey Joe, I saw your content and I'd like to learn pay-per-call with Google call-only ads. Do you have a program? Wow, this is just a pre-sale question. So yes, go right here to join the notification list, digitaltriggers.io/pay-per-call. And we're just gonna skip that question, act like it didn't exist. All right, so next question, we got this one handled. All right, so this is a great question by Tim Parker. All right, so are you using any special software tools to create all the ads for call only? Are you doing mobile call only on Bing too by just reducing the cost per click by 100%, so only mobile shows? Can you show how to create your call only ad? All right, so let's tackle this. Excuse me. So are we using any software? We're not using any specific software to run / build these campaigns. We are building these campaigns in a very strategic way though, right? So quality score is something that you gotta watch out when you're running call only campaigns. What that means is you do need a landing page. It doesn't have to be like a high converting landing page, but it needs to be a landing page that's gonna give you a good quality score. Right, so if you have a difference between a quality score of 3 and a quality score of 7, right, you're gonna pay roughly twice as much, hypothetically, according to Google's bidding software and their algorithm, right, per click, which means you're gonna pay twice as much effectively per call. All right, so it's very important that you have a good quality score. So we're not focused on conversions with the landing page because it's a call only ad, but we do need good landing pages. So what I mean by that is, right, very, very tight ad groups. So let's say this, tight ad groups, tight group of keywords in ads and landing page. So when Google goes and they crawl the site, right, it's going to be very, very tight. So right out of the gate, we're going to get a better quality score. So if we don't have a very good quality score from Google, the problem is our ads just aren't going to show very frequently, our ads don't show very frequently, guess what? We're not going to get the call volume that we need. So by looking at a lot of call only campaigns, and guys, literally today, looking at thousands of call only campaigns, it's very, very important. Obviously, it should go without saying that quite literally you have a good quality score so that you can show up a lot, meaning that you have a high impression share. Okay, if you have a bad quality score, you're just not going to show up. If you don't show up, you're not going to get calls. Give me a 3 if that makes sense. Okay, you got to have a good quality score. So you got to focus on building very tight, okay, ad groups, okay, very tight group of keywords, and also very tight relevant landing page for those groups. If you do that, you're going to end up with a great quality score. Okay, you're going to pay less per click, and you're going to have a much better impression share, so you're going to get more calls. Okay, so these are the big tips I can give you guys in terms of just kind of best practices. So we're not using any special software, so to speak, but this is what I can tell you right now are kind of the big important levers for you to focus on. And then the second part of the question is asking about Bing. So we're not running Bing call only ads because Bing call only ads don't really exist. There's Bing call extensions, but it's not really a call only because they can still click on other elements of your ad and go to your website. So it's not technically a call only ad. Because of that, that's kind of circumvents the reason that we run call only ads, which is to get a higher conversion rate and pay less on a cost per acquisition or cost per phone call basis. Give me a 4 if that makes sense, please. Keith asks, explain tight, closely related. Let's update that. Let's say tight. Right, so if you're going after one type of service, for example, you're gonna have 5 to 10 keyword variations. They're all gonna be very, very tight. If you're going after roofing and there's different types of roofing systems, you're gonna wanna separate the different type of roofing keywords or roofing systems, right, out by the service, right? So if you service tile roofs, you'd have an ad campaign and keywords around tile roofs, okay? If you did metal, you'd go after metal as well. And you're gonna silo these and make these keywords as tight as possible so that you have a landing page and ad group that are highly relevant and have a quality score that is great right out of the gate. Okay, give me a 1 if that makes sense to everybody. And I know we're going fast, and I'm sorry, I gotta go as fast as I can so I can get to as many questions as I possibly can. Remember, Joe Troyer is all about more value this year. You like that in my email signature, by the way, Joe more value Troyer? All right, so we gotta do this. So can you show how to create a call only ad? I mean, I could, frankly, Tim Parker, but at the end of the day, you can go Google that, right? And that's not the most value that I can bring for you guys. Like literally go Google it, you'll do much better, all right? Next question here. Ooh. All right, so next question comes from Jimmy Hoskins. What's the best way to start a pay-per-call business from scratch on a shoestring budget? So I already answered this. Okay, and if I misspelled something, guys, I'm sorry, but I'd rather focus on getting you guys the content, right, than focus on my grammar, right? I want to get you guys the content. I want to get you guys the quality. I want to get you guys the value here today. So here at the end of the day, my advice to you would be to go watch on YouTube the best pay per call training ever, okay? And that's that video I talked about earlier, okay? But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're pitching your customer on or your prospect on a market test. And that market test, you're running a test for 30 days using Google call only ads, right? In that, you're getting a feel for the market. So the way that it works is you put your money where your mouth is, you run the campaign, you build the campaign, you optimize the campaign over those 30 days. Their commitment to you is that they cover the ad spend. Folks, the most important thing that you learn is about the market. You become an expert in the market. You learn that in South Florida, it takes X amount of clicks to turn into a call on average, and it's costing you X amount per click. Now you know how much a phone call costs. 99% of people, when they sell a pay-per-call deal, are winging how much it costs per click. Never fucking do that. Right? If you sell it this way, you won't lose. Okay? And I talk about a whole lot of other reasons why this method works so well, including the benchmark theory that I talk about, right? You want a benchmark that is not you saying how much a lead costs. When you go and you do a 30-day test, Google is telling you that a lead or a call costs this amount of money. The prospect can't argue with you, right? It's either worth it to them or it's not after the 30-day test. Give me a 2 if that makes sense to everybody. It's no longer, hey, you know, I don't believe you. What's your markup, right? I need it lower. It's, bro, this is the test, right? This is the cost. Look, I'll show you the account. Right? Now you're no longer the person that they're bargaining with. It's Google, and they can take it or they can leave it. Okay? Now your job is to keep the volume up and to keep it coming. Okay? So you need that benchmark. Okay? Awesome. So the best way to start a pay-per-call business on a shoestring budget. Okay? So go watch on YouTube this video on the Digital Triggers channel. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to pitch to your prospects a 30-day test with call-only ads, right? You run the campaigns. They front the ad spend or pay. Try to use good terms here. They make it as clear as I can. They pay the ad spend, okay? Every time you guys do this, it should get easier and easier. You go into a niche, you go sell 3 of these deals, you do the keyword research once, and yeah, you got to change out locations and a couple unique details, but you can use the same basis and the same structure over and over and over and over again, right? And it becomes a copy and paste system. So after the 30 days, right, you recap all the results with them, you walk them through it, right? And you offer to guarantee that cost per phone call. That is exactly what I do. Okay, they say no. Could you downsell another service? Yeah, downsell pay-per-click management. You don't want it to pay per lead? No problem. We'll continue to run this campaign, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars per month. Okay, would I do that? Probably not. Right? I'd make much more money, and you would too with call only. Okay, but it really depends upon how your agency is set up. Do you actually show the AdWords results, or do you show a summary? I show the results, right? And I walk through and I show you got this many clicks. This is how much it costed per click. Here was your conversion rate. Here's how much you paid per call, right? And then I ask them about how the last month went. How did this business go, right? It sounds like you got, 5 or 6 jobs out of this. Are you happy with that? Yeah, I'm happy with it. It worked out okay, right? And we talk about the future. How much more volume could you handle, right? And then it's very easy for me to pitch. All right, great. Well, what do you think about us continuing to work together? And I'll lock in that rate per call with you. Okay, or, right, if you got to do a little bit of negotiating, I'll lock in that rate per call and I'll guarantee that it's 5% lower. Right? Sign on the dotted line, Mr. Prospect. Okay, super, super easy. Shoestring budget, like complete shoestring. You had no cost besides your time to set up the campaign and run it and meet with the business owner. And if you'd like, if you have more money than you have time, you can outsource the fulfillment to set up the call-only campaign, manage it, and run it for you over those 30 days. Clear? Give me a 1 if you're clear and you guys are ready to move on to the next question or the next topic. We clear? All right, good stuff, good stuff. All right, so next question is there much of a difference between PPC and call only in the setup and the keywords? Why use call only over PPC? I mean, first things first is call only is PPC. It's just a specific ad unit. You are only showing ads, right, on mobile devices, okay? And the only action a prospect can take is to call you, okay? So why Why do we use call-only ads versus any of the other ad units inside of Google Ads? Let's see who was paying attention last week. Why do we do this versus just run a huge PPC campaign for them? Why do we do this? Give me some feedback in the chat. Let's see who was paying attention last week. Higher conversions, right? Lower cost per call. That's exactly why. Okay. And you don't need a website that converts like gangbusters, right? You need a landing page, yes. You need it to be relevant, yes, so you have a good quality score, but you don't have to become a conversion rate optimization expert. You don't have to pull out a landing page in your first setup with a customer, right? In a week, let's say, setup time that's converting like gangbusters. Trust me when I say, right, the chances of you converting better on a PPC campaign, I don't care what kind of conversion rate optimization expert you got on your team, versus me running a call-only campaign, I'm going to kill you every single time in terms of my conversion rate. Please give me a 1 if that makes sense. Please give me a 1 if that makes sense. Now, the caveat here is that this doesn't work for every industry, right? If it's not an industry where somebody's going to make a phone call to contact the local business owner, then this isn't going to work. It also isn't a niche that you should be going after in terms of pay per call. If a prospect isn't going to make a phone call, you shouldn't be trying to get paid with phone calls, right? But hopefully that's an obvious thing, right? Is it emergency only? No. Look at, personal injury attorneys, one of the highest grossing cost per clicks out there, one of the highest local cost per click programs out there or niches out there. Personal injury attorneys are flooded with call-only ads. Yeah, so it might not work with your kitten hiking group, Scott. Exactly. Awesome, fantastic. Steve Adam is asking again, like, how do we sell this, and what if it's less? And Steve, I answered this from A to Z. I'm sorry, on the last webinar, boss. We got to continue on. Go grab that answer by going to YouTube and searching for the best pay-per-call training ever. And I promise, man, you won't be disappointed. Great freaking training. Let's see. So I think we nailed this one. Let's go to the next one. All right. All right. After watching your AMA on pay-per-call, you mentioned the first 30 days with a new client, we should do setup and campaign at no charge and have the client pay ad spend to establish a benchmark for results. For month 2 onward, we would be selling leads at a prearranged price or track on a fixed management fee. Yeah, whichever one you want, right? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, understand that you guys could go pitch a 30-day test, right? For anything, right? You could pitch a 30-day test as a foot in the door. For any service, right? What I mean by that is you could go sell pay-per-call after the 30-day test, right? Which is obviously what we do. Okay, but you could also go just sell AdWords management. Right? I'm not really sure, I guess, what the question is. Obviously, the webinar was called, right, pay-per-call and the best pay-per-call training ever, but you could do it to sell whatever you wanted. Okay, after the benchmark, the client would know lead costs. Would they push back on our fee/lead costs? So the thing is you have the benchmark and you're locking them in at that benchmark. What's going to happen over time, Howard, is you learn the keywords that are generating calls. And you learn the times of day that are generating calls, and you figure out what the best times of day to run ads are, right? Your cost per click or your cost per conversion are going to drop as you start to optimize. Right, so cost per conversion or phone call drop as you optimize, right? Giving you your margin. So would they push back? Well, you got a benchmark. So why would they push back? Right? If they push back, they're going to push back after the 30 days is done. And you say, this is what I propose to do, Mr. Prospect, right? Or what, Mr. Business Owner, would you like to go forward with this? If they're going to not go forward, they're going to not go forward there. I can't see them, right, in day 45, right? So they already said yes, right? Now come back to you and say no, right? Because you have a benchmark. So I hope this makes sense. So how would we say this? So really at the end of the day, this question is, could you sell AdWords management after the 30-day test instead of pay per call? Yes. And then how do you have a markup if you lock in their price per call? Really, I think was the second part of the question. Hopefully that makes sense, Howard Tiano. Any questions, y'all? Does this make sense before we move on? Give me a 2 if that makes sense real quick. Right, that's why you have a benchmark. And obviously, yeah, I mean, you guys, if you got an AdWords management company or that's a service that you want to run, I've made a lot of money with that. It's just a different business model. So could you pitch a 30-day test with call only, and then once that happens, right, and you show your worth to the local business owner, right, could you then, right, pitch AdWords management? Yes, but obviously that's not the topic of today's webinar or the last AMA. Okay. Killer training, awesome, Jeff Best, no problem. So let's see, my confusion is, how do you start the campaign? How do you build the campaign you start with? Yeah, you outsource it, Chris, right? Or you learn how to build out an AdWords campaign. Like, honestly, it's very simple, but you could outsource it if you'd like. All right, so next question here. We're gonna talk about some niches. Niches. All right, so I've talked quite a bit about niches in the past, but I'll do another quick run through. It shouldn't take me long. So what are the niches? So let's rephrase this. What are your pay per call / pay per lead niche requirements? Let's put it that way instead. All right, and I'll share some niches as well. Okay, this is way too big. It's tripping me out. Whew, here we go. All right. So for me, guys, at the end of the day, I like selling to blue collar versus white collar. Reason why is I can talk chest to chest. I can talk logic, right? And it just works better for me. I don't like long sales processes myself. If I can choose a niche where I can literally get to a business owner in 3 or 4 phone calls, right? And I can pitch 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 and I can get a sale. Right, so effectively 1 in 10 cold calls, 1 in 15 cold calls is going to net me a new customer. Why would I go after a vertical where I need to make 200 phone calls to get a new customer? Give me a 3 if that makes sense to you guys. And that's my prospecting style too. I'm not saying that that can't be different for you. I'm not saying that you can't crush it with white collar. I have a friend that crushes it for personal injury attorneys, right? He's a personal coaching client of mine. Absolutely freaking crushes it, right? But he makes more per customer and he has a longer sales cycle than I do, right? For me, it's just not my preferred niche to go after. Okay, this is just my personal preference, okay? By all means, if I had a strategic partner that gave me an in with 3,000 personal injury attorneys or 3,000 of some other niche, right? And I could go pitch on a webinar, one to many, to all 3,000. Do you guys think I would be in? Yes or no? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Of course I would be in. I would be in like white on rice, man. I would be freaking all over it. Okay, but because of my prospecting methods and I know how I'm gonna get customers, how my team members are gonna get customers, right? It makes sense for how I'm going to prospect for me to go after blue collar versus white collar. Give me a 2 if that makes sense to everybody real quick. All right, fantastic. So then next up is that the leads turn over within 1 to 2 weeks or faster. And what I mean by that specifically is that if a lead comes in within 1 to 2 weeks, the chances are, if they're going to convert, right, there's a 90% chance that they're going to convert in that first week or two. Are there sometimes stragglers? Yes, right? But I want to be able to show a prospect, you spent this much money in marketing, right? And then over the course of the next 30 days, this is what you made back. Okay? This helps me not always deal, right, with the what did you do for me lately? Or what did you do for me? Or, right, what's the return that I'm getting, and me not being able to quantify it for a customer. Okay? Everything that I do as a business is very results oriented. You guys see that, right? Give me a 3 if you guys see that. In everything that I do as a business, in my agencies that I built and run and sold, right? And in my software companies and training companies, right? And on these webinars with you, everything that I do is all about results. Everything from A to Z. Okay? So for me, I have to be able to show this. And as long as I can show this, I will sell harder than anybody else, right? I'll stand on top of a rooftop and freaking shout it, right? Because I'm confident that I can get people a return on investment, right? That makes me very confident in my prospecting, right? And in me working with clients as they come on board. And it also makes me very, very confident with my team, right? When I look at their numbers and I've already benchmarked my numbers, I can say, yeah, but you should probably be here, right? Try this, try that. Right? And I can be confident, you can get better, you can do this, right? I know in the next 2 weeks, if you really try, right? You focus on selling with quality, you can up your close by 10 or 15%. Right? It gives me a little bit of a different perspective and attitude than most people. So blue collar versus white collar, for me, again, blue collar. I need leads to turn over within 1 to 2 weeks is kind of the general rule of the thumb, or at least the majority. And this is kind of like a duh one, but I'm not sure how to say it without just saying higher ticket. I mean, yeah, we all want higher ticket, right? You want to be in a business that has, 10% margin or 5%, or you want to be in one that has 30% and, has a higher ticket. Well, duh, I want to be in higher ticket. But let's just say this. Let's say that you were considering working with a florist. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Thanks, buddy. Or you were going to work with a roofer, right? Which one is going to be easier to deal with, right? Which one's going to be easier to quantify? Which one's going to be able to be easier to show the return on investment? For me, it's all about that roofer, right? I get them one lead that turns into a good quote, right? Somebody says yes to the quote, or somebody has their insurance approve the program, right? Approve the quote, right? Or they apply for financing. Dude, that's money in the freaking bank, right? It's very easy for me to show my value. So at the end of the day, guys, these are kind of my big 3 criteria. And a lot of these guys are kind of obvious things. So let's step backwards for a second and let's talk about the number 1 thing. Yes, let's step backwards. Let's step back 3 steps and let's talk about the number 1 thing. The number 1 thing is You gotta like working with the niche. A lot of people say you gotta like work in a passion niche, and I always thought that like that was bullshit. Like, yeah, screw that. Right? I'll make money wherever. It's money. It doesn't matter. Right? But long term, to really not get burnt out, right? Like when you wake up, you gotta be like excited to go to work, and you gotta be excited about the things that you're gonna do today, right? Not like, shit, man, I gotta go deal with another freaking florist. Right? Like that shouldn't be what's in the back of your mind. And if that's what's in your back in the back of your mind, right? Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, right? Work's going to suck, your life's going to suck. So first and foremost, you got to like working with the niche, I believe, right? Because you'll enjoy it, right? Talking with prospects will be a fun time for you. You'll get to know the niche, right? You'll become an expert in the niche. You'll be able to help people, right? After all, I think that's why most of you got in this space. All right, so make sure that you always consider that first and foremost. All right, next up, what do we got here? We got, we're cranking through these. There we go. So this is a great one. All right. So Carolyn Huff has a great question here. And I'm going to think of a way to rephrase this better. Do you offer different lead prices for different services? I don't know how else to say that. If you guys figure out a way to rephrase this at the end when we're done, that would be freaking fantastic. But let's see here. So basically what I'm trying to say is, let's say we're going after roofing. So if you're dealing with a roofer, there's a couple different types of roofers out there, right? You got roofers that do commercial, right? You got roofers that do residential, right? And then you could even say that there's like storm chasers, right? So these are all three different types of prospects, understand? And they're also three different types of roofing companies. Give me a 2 if that makes sense. That makes sense, right? So what we've tried in the past, for example, and I think what Carolyn's really getting at is, let's say that you decide to go after residential, right? I'm going to make a market going after roofers that focus on residential. They don't chase storms, because the ones that chase storms aren't ready to do retail work. Meaning when a phone call comes in, they're going to be like, yeah, well, our crew's out in a different state, or they're 4 hours away working on this storm, right? And canvassing neighborhoods, right, is a very different setup than a company that's focused on residential roof repair and re-roof in an area, okay? So let's say that you decided to focus on residential. You're going to have repair leads, and you're going to have new roof leads or re-roof leads, meaning re-roof, your roof's bad, right? It's old as shit, right? It's past your warranty. There's problems with it. It's just old. You need a new one, okay? Give me a 3 if that makes sense to everybody. Should make perfect sense, right? So these are 2 very specific types of leads within residential roofing. So Karen's question is, would you change the price, right? Or would you charge different prices for repair versus new or re-roofs? Give me your feedback in the chat. I'd love to hear from you guys, your thoughts on this one. And I have a feeling the answer is not going to be what you guys suspect. All right, let me know. I see some good answers coming in. I want some more. Let me know in the chat, all right? Marcus Roman says, Joe, I hate to say, or Joe, I moved on to other people in the industry a few years ago. I see I should have stayed with you because you're saying things this past few weeks that make total sense to me. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks, buddy. You're awesome. I appreciate you saying that, Marcus, and it has been a long time, brother. Glad to see you on the webinar, man. So are you going to charge differently for repairs versus re-roofs? Yeah. So here's the problem. Okay. I don't ever charge different prices. Okay. And I can't say ever. In 95% of circumstances, I don't charge different prices. And I'll give you guys some distinguishing characteristics between the two models. So the problem is with residential is if somebody needs a repair, most of the volume is in repairs, right? Give me a one if that makes sense. People don't just say, oh, I need a new roof, let me call a roofer. That's not near as common as I have a leak in my roof, let me call a roofer, right? A tree fell on my roof, let me call a roofer. I can see that a shingle blew off my roof, let me call a roofer. That doesn't mean that the lead is not going to turn into a new roof, but wouldn't you rather repair your roof for, let's say, 500 bucks if you thought that was possible than get a whole new roof for 15,000 bucks? Duh, right? I had to replace a roof. When I called, do you think I was asking about a repair or a re-roof? I'm not a freaking roofing expert, right? I told the company that I think there needs to be a repair done, right? I didn't think I was, needed to pay 15,000 bucks for a new roof. I belittled the situation too. I didn't know any better, right? Come out and repair my roof. Guess what? That turned into quite literally a $12,000 roofing sale because they came out to my house, right? And pitched me on a new roof. So understand that repair work is going to often lead to new roofs or re-roofs. Okay, and the problem is that the volume is here in repair work, not in new. Okay, the repair is a foot in the door, right? And that doesn't mean that every company can handle giving away a foot in the door offer, right? If their sales team isn't trained on it and they go out there and they don't take a sales guy and they literally just go bang on the roof and do the repair, are they making the most out of the situation? Probably not. Yeah, Leslie says repairs always lead to a new roof in the future. Excellent leads. Yeah, but you got to be set up for that. Okay, so at the end of the day, I don't like nickeling and diming my customers, right? But at the same token, I don't want to have to listen to every single call and say, yeah, well, they called about a repair, but then I see that they called back a week later and you actually pitch them on a whole new roof and you want a $10,000 job. Like, dude, giving me my, difference in $25 in the cost of the lead. No. So I charge for roofing, for example, I charge flat rate. Okay. So in roofing, I have very often, and I've helped customers sell an assload of deals, right, for repairs or new roofs for $125 for a billable qualified lead. Okay. So do you offer different prices for different services? Not typically. Let me give you a different example though. Okay, in roofing, I don't. But then you have niches like restoration. Okay, so inside of restoration, you got water damage, you got mold, and you got fire, and then you also have like some sewage. Most people don't do sewage. Most people do mold and fire, and depending on the location of the business, and also depending on kind of the way that the business is set up, one or more of these is the constant one. Either water damage is the concentration or mold is the concentration. Okay. The issue in restoration is you can't get away paying different lead prices for different services, or you can't get away just charging a flat rate. So what I mean by that is mold. If you're a good salesperson, you build good rapport, you're going to be able to sell mold calls for 100 to 150 bucks, right? And these are some blanket statements. There are times that it's not quite that much. There's times that they're more than that, all right? Understand that these are some blanket statements. Water damage, we successfully sell water damage at $400 to $450 a call, okay? Do you guys think that I can get away with selling mold at $400 to $450? Like, look at the difference here. No, I can't, right? There's too much of a gap, okay? And it's not one service. It's not a roofing job. Right? This is water damage and this is mold. Okay, I can't get away with selling mold leads, right, for this price point. And I can't get away with, in terms of fulfillment, right, I can't buy water damage in most cities. I can't buy them for this price in volume. So the business model, right, doesn't sustain me not charging different prices per lead. So wherever you can, like roofing, I would charge a flat rate. When there's too much of a gap and there's clearly multiple services, right? Not just one like roofing. When you got water, you got mold, you got fire, you got sewer, right? Those are very different things. Then and there, and when things are very different lead prices, right? You have to go with what the market will bear. Okay, give me a 3 if that makes sense. So I know that was a mouthful. I'm hoping that it really sunk in and you guys got it though. All right, Jared Knight. All right, so we are going to wrap up with this one, and this is a goodie. This is a goodie for sure, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people get wrong. So essentially, Jared is asking, how do you handle the billing of pay-per-call customers? So let's just change it to that. How do you, let's say, how do you bill pay-per-call customers? So let's say that you just got done with a 30-day test with a prospect, right? You turn off the ads, you collect all the data, you meet with the prospect, you meet with the customer, you present him with the data, the guy liked the calls, he got a return. Let's say you had to negotiate a little bit, you had to drop the CPA by 5% or 10% to get him in and lock it in at that rate. You got him in, right? Now, how do you actually collect your money? So at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems that I see agencies making in general, I see local marketers making in general, whether you're doing pay-per-call, you're doing SEO, or you're doing any other types of services, is I see people playing bill collector. And it's bullshit, right? You're literally spending so much time following up on overdue payments, right? Because you're sending payments out or invoices out one at a time, and you're not auto collecting on the payments, all right? So first and foremost, like the rule of thumb just needs to be don't play bill collector. Like you shouldn't have to have people on your team or somebody that you outsource dedicated to being a bill collector and following up with people and getting them to pay what they told you they were going to pay you. Like, excuse my French, but that's fucking bullshit, right? Your job is to do what you do. You're a marketing company. You need to focus on being the marketing company and delivering as much value, being that marketing company, as you possibly can. How many of you guys would admit, give me a 1 in the chat, that you spend way too much time being a bill collector? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So we're gonna fix that. I'm gonna give you guys some rules that you can take and you guys can apply to your businesses, whether pay-per-call or otherwise. So you never wanna play bill collector, okay? What that means is you shouldn't need authorization to charge their credit card or to make the payment. So how do I say this? That doesn't mean that you bill them for $5,000 worth of shit. They have no idea that you're doing it, and then you just ding their credit card. Obviously, you're going to have problems, right? So the goal is that you don't need authorization to charge the customer. The way that we do this in pay-per-call is that they either give us ACH or credit card, right? Authorization. Okay, the way that we do it in pay-per-call is we collect a retainer in advance. The amount of this retainer is essentially our expected call volume for 30 days. Okay, so let's say the first month, right, running call only campaigns, we got what we would consider 10 billable calls at, let's say, $65 a piece, right? And we think that this month, right, with a little improvement and based upon how things are going, that we can double that and we can do 20 calls at 65 bucks a piece. And that's where our customer locked in their rate at, right? Your retainer would be this, which is essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but 1,300 bucks. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Let me know in the chat. This amount is paid in advance. Okay, and this amount moves. This is the expected call volume for 30 days. So as you continue to deliver more and more and more volume, the retainer continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, or if you don't make the retainer bigger, understand that you're going to have to audit the calls and effectively subtract from that retainer more often. Those are your two options. Okay, so once you run basically your billing, then what we do is we would audit phone calls. Okay, we would mark the ones that are billable, right? We would then multiply by the lead price. Okay, and we'd say this is how much money is left in your retainer. And we would essentially, every Monday, send this to our customers. It's really that simple. Okay, when the retainer falls below, right, and you don't have a balance to charge, right, you refill or replenish the retainer. So you can do this and say, like, when it's empty, you could say, you could do this when it falls below, you know, $100 or whatever it is that you want. Okay, if they don't pay, we go to charge them, right? Their card doesn't go through. What do we do? Let me know in the chat. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We go to bill the customer. Let's say they got $100 left on their retainer and we can't bill the customer, and ads are running right now, right? We're at risk of having to front money for the customer and frankly at risk of them not paying us back. What do? We stop the calls. Okay, in this example, call only, we pause the campaign. I'm telling you guys, don't make the mistake that I have made and let the customer get away with, I'll make the payment on, you know, on Wednesday, right? When it's Monday. I'll make the payment on Wednesday, don't worry about it. No, you're gonna make the payment right now or I'm pausing the campaign. Okay? I have lost my ass on a couple pay-per-call campaigns early in my career that were freaking crushing it because I got stuck being the bill collector and I let the customer kept getting further and further and further behind. They'd pay partial of their bill, but not the whole thing. And what happened over time? They ate up all my margin, right? And then left me with a bill. Don't make that mistake, okay? Pause the campaign, or if you got multiple customers in a location, right? Redirect the calls to another customer. Okay, it is a good idea, okay, to create some redundancy and have multiple customers in a single service area or territory. So if this happens, your call volume, right? The amount of money that you're making per call doesn't suffer. AKA, you're still able to run your pay-per-call offer in that area and in that market. All right, guys, so last call. I have a call that I gotta jump to. One last question or two last questions real quick. Two if they're short, one if it's long, we'll answer one more, and then we're gonna shut things down. I try to keep these as close to an hour as possible when I can, and today we definitely can. This is awesome. Thanks, Joe. You're very welcome, Jared Knight. Glad I was able to answer your question, brother. Hopefully I added a bunch of value for you, man. Jerome says, nice. I wouldn't have thought about this. Very impressive. Thank you. You're very welcome, man. What is the profit per call in a 65 example? Just depends on the market, man. There's no real way to answer that unless you have a benchmark, right? What's your benchmark, right? You got to go get that benchmark, right? And that's what the best pay per call training ever, right, that we gave is all about, right? Having that benchmark. Derek says, a prospect asks if I don't care about ranking locally on maps, do I still need a physical address and citations? If they care about ranking, period, then yes, I would give them citation on maps. If they don't care about ranking organically or locally, then no, you don't need maps. I mean, you could say it's a reputation marketing play as well. What I mean by that is if you Google the brand, right, on the top right, little knowledge box or whatever is going to show up with the business name and the reviews. Do you send customers an invoice before you charge the customer? Great. So that's a good question. Basically, whenever we run billing on that Monday, we always send them an update of what's happening, right? And so they're getting updates from us. Your retainer is down to this, your retainer is down to that, right? We always let them know. Okay, we don't just randomly charge them and it's like, dude, I haven't heard from you in 6 months and now you're just randomly charged my card $5,000, right? The key is to keep them in the loop. Okay, so do I send them notice before I charge them? They're getting notice every single Monday of where their retainer is. Do I then, when Monday comes and I need to bill them, ask for permission? No. Do I send them a credit card receipt and tell them what I did? Yes. And I have permission to do that in my agreement with them. Okay, I set the expectation as of how billing is going to work and how the retainer is going to work when I sold the customer, and again, when I onboarded the customer as well. What do you use to charge them? PayPal? No, you can't do this with PayPal, right? You can't charge them for an amount. They have to authorize it. Okay, your amount is changing every single month based upon how many qualified calls you sent the customer. There is no way to say, Mr. Customer, I'm going to send you 10 qualified calls a month on the nose, no more, no less. Right? Pre-authorize this payment through PayPal for 65 times 10, $650 a month. That's not going to happen, man. You try to set yourself up like that, you are going to fail, right? So you need to be using a credit card processing, or you need to be using ACH, and you need to be charging them via a credit card that they have on file with you, right? So when I sell a pay-per-call deal, they fill out a credit card authorization form or an ACH authorization form that gives me permission to charge them based upon the terms in that agreement. I hope that makes sense, Aaron. Chris Ulrich, great question. Water damage. What's the average client get per month in leads? So everybody always wants to know, like, what's the cost per lead, right? What's the markup? What's the volume? And ultimately, at the end of the day, the question really isn't very easy to answer ever. It depends, right? What's the customer's budget? Can they afford 1 call a month, or can they afford 100 billable calls a month, right? And then what will the market bear? So Chris, in water damage, for example, like, I hate giving you guys answers like this, but it really does depend, right? In South Florida, for example, there's a shitload of call volume compared to, Iowa, right? So depending on the location, you're going to have seasonality issues, and you're just going to have very different volume expectations and opportunities. So again, Chris, the reason, an important reason why you do that benchmark and you do that 30-day test is so that you can see what kind of volume a market has, and also what the competition and what the cost is in that market. So somebody said, I went to this URL and I got an error. So basically, when you go to this URL, let me pull it up. When it loads, you're basically going to see this. It's going to say paper call enrollment currently closed. Just leave it there for a second. And then you're going to see this waiting list pop up. So it is currently closed, but you can join the waiting list. Hope that makes sense. Just give it a second. It'll pop up. That's what she said. I hope you guys have a freaking fantastic week. If you guys are interested in joining us in the pay-per-call mastermind, I would love to have you. Just look out for emails over the next week or so as we roll out next week the pay-per-call mastermind. I'm super excited to open this again, and I can't wait to see what I can't wait to show you guys what we have in store. Have an awesome week. I'll see you next Wednesday on the AMA as well. Sayonara, everybody.